and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a knitty yarny podcast from the southwest of France. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you're all doing very well. If you're in the United States, is it Thanksgiving? Is it this week? I don't know. I think it is. If it is, happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you enjoy the holiday if you celebrate it. And for the rest of the world, happy 20-something of November. I have a little episode for you this week. It's mostly going to be about what I'm wearing, which is a new pattern release for one of my designs. And I do have some significant progress to show on one other whip. But yeah, it's going to be a bit limited due to some secret projects in the works again. But I had something in mind for quite a few weeks now, and I would like to address the topic with you. It's about monogamous knitting. I have some thoughts to share in the perspective of next year. So, yes, already. But yeah, I think that's it introduction wise. You can find timestamps to all the different sections of the podcast in the description down below. So if you want to skip anything, if you are not interested in my own patterns or in my general blabber about knitting, feel free to jump to what interests you. And there is also links to everything that I talk about, as well as my social media and patterns for sale on Ravelry and on Making Things. So yeah, I checked last week the automatic subtitles put in by YouTube, because someone mentioned that they liked to watch the podcast with subtitles, which I can understand, especially if you're not a native English speaker. And I was so pleasantly surprised with how accurate they were. There was a few hiccups, but mostly due to knitting jargon. It's not going to get that word because I'm not sure. The knitting specific terms that weren't being caught up by the automatic transcription. However, it was very good and very almost perfect most of the times, which I was quite flattered about, considering I am not a native English speaker, so it has to compensate my weird accent sometimes, and it does really good. So I just wanted to say, in case you find it useful, you can put automatic subtitles on the video via the YouTube settings. So if that is something that you would need, maybe check it out, because I found them surprisingly good. Now, I'm only talking about the English transcription, because then I had a look at the French translation just to laugh a little bit, and it was laughable. So, yes, I can vouch for the transcription, not for the translation. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention it, it just came to my mind. And with that, we can jump straight into knitting and a new pattern release. So the sweater that I am wearing, Feriga, is now live on Ravelry. So this is my second garment pattern. I am very excited. I hope you like it for this winter. I already made summer type garment in the past, and now is my first winter proper long sleeve sweater. So I'm going to get up and show it to you, because the interest is at the bottom. I tried to get a good enough angle with the camera so that you would actually see the fit and everything. So it's a top-down raglan sweater with thick raglan lines. The raglan is not a regular raglan. As you can see, it's a little bit curved. Basically, the increased ratio between the sleeves and the body changes so that it kind of follows a curve rather than being straight across, which I find is a bit uncomfortable if you have a bigger bust, and unflattering if you have a small to medium bust, because it really cuts you, unless it's like a specific design. But in general, I tend to prefer the raglans to curve out a little bit, which is what I tried to do here. So the neckline is like this. It has short rows in the back that are in the ribbing, so that the neck is elongated, and the sleeves are rather fitted. The body has some ease. I recommend 10 to 15 centimeter ease. And the main attraction of the sweater is the hem, the bottom, which combines textures with a lateral braid, which I found called Vickle braid, which is an Estonian technique. It's kind of a sister technique to the Latvian braid, except it's just in one color and it is very easy to work. I find it really convenient to kind of cut horizontally, which can be quite troublesome in knitting. And I really like that braid effect. And my testers were all very happy with it and succeeded, so it is really a really easy technique. And I'm quite happy that people seem to like it, because I might have put it in like 3 or 4 of my designs, so upcoming designs. So yeah, and then of course you have a colorwork motif, which is fairly simple. It doesn't, you don't need to catch any floats. And yeah, you can see here that my foreground color, the motif color, is the main color of the sweater. This is how it's written in the pattern. You may, of course, if you want, reverse it. And then the bottom of the sweater, as well as the cuffs of the sleeves, are finished with some sort of waffle rib thing using slipped stitches. And yeah, so I made mine rather cropped. You can of course make it as long or as short as you want. And yeah, I'll try and show you different angles. It's a bit, I don't have much space to turn and show you things around, but yeah, you can find it on Ravelry, so you can see proper pictures there, as well as my testers versions if you care to have a look. So I wanted to address one thing regarding the sweater that has come up in test knitting, and it's the hem of the sweater. So it is really important that you pay attention to your colorwork gauge. It needs to be the same as your stockinette gauge, because if not, the sweater is going to go in that point. So it's, I think, a good first colorwork garment, because you don't have any shaping to do, contrary to colorwork that is in the yoke. And it may help you really understand how your colorwork gauge work. So you shouldn't hesitate, and it's written in the pattern, to go up in needle size for the colorwork section, so that there is no difference width-wise between the stockinette section and the colorwork. Because what happens if it goes in is, well, first it's not the intended look. The intended look is really to just be flowy and straight. But then when you move on to the hem, you might have some flaring happening, and so if you can't manage to have a proper colorwork gauge, you might have that problem, which some of my testers have, some didn't have at all, because their colorwork was nice and straight. And the testers who did have the issue, they managed to fix it easily when blocking. So you just have to stretch the colorwork so that it matches the width of the rest of the garment, and that way it works really well. So yeah, just a little tip in case you find that with your yarn, your gauge, if you don't want to be bothered changing needle size to make sure that it's alright, just be careful with that point. I'd say that's the main part of the sweater that might not go smoothly for beginner knitters. It's still fairly easy, and like I said, I give all those tips in the pattern as well, so you should be fine. So what else did I want to say? Yes, so I knitted this sweater out of Moeke Yarns Elena. So the gauge is going to be a sport/DK weight gauge, and I've talked already about the yarn, which I absolutely loved. It was a really interesting process to work with. So it is yarn made out of tsigaye wool, which is a Romanian breed of sheep. It's really an artisanal yarn, something that makes you adapt to it, and kind of had me change from the easy habit, you know, when you have a material, a yarn that is really industrial perfect and standard. This was very different. This was a little bit more living, so to say. And the result is a really, really warm sweater that is just obviously handmade. So you can see that the fabric has this kind of crumbly texture to it, and I think it just works really well with the color work. It makes this really rustic, woodland, vintagey look, and I really like it, and that's what I wanted, and I'm really happy with it. And you can see that my testers used various different yarns. Some of them used Lore, the new yarn by the Fiber Company, and had terrific results. A lot of them used, which I was really happy about, a lot of them used those types of yarn, more natural, rustic yarns, including some yarn from Brittany, France, and yeah, they all had interesting results. So some of them also used smoother yarns, and yeah, you can see a variety of options to use. Like I said, most DK weight or heavy sports would do. And yes, this is Veriga, and there is for the release of this pattern a coupon code. So the code Veriga will give you 15% off the pattern until next Wednesday. So everything will be written in the description. The link to the pattern is there if you want to have a look and check out the testers versions to get some inspiration. Yeah, I'm really eager to see what you think. Like I said, it's my second garment pattern, so I'm a little bit nervous and excited at the same time, because yeah, I have so many garment patterns planned for the future. I really hope you enjoy the work that I do around that. I wanted to share as well a little bit more about the inspiration behind it, because I did say that it was inspired from Romanian traditional motifs. So I'm gonna go and grab a couple of things to show you what I meant with that. So you may be familiar with some Eastern Europe folklore, especially Hungarian and Bulgarian outfits that tend to look a little bit like Bavarian clothing as well. You have these really traditional white blouses that are embroidered. Sometimes it's flowery motifs, but in Romania you have a specific shape and combination of colors, which is this one. So this is, I'm trying to avoid the glare. This is a bowl that's been broken and has jewelry in it, but if I can get it closer, yes. So these motifs, which are also quite reminiscent of obviously Scandinavian stars, if you look at the history of these motifs and traditional Norwegian and Scandinavian colorwork, it's really interesting to see that all of Europe has some kind of common ground to it. But in Romania you often find these types of shape in these three colors. So it's a red and black motif on a white background. And a lot of times these are embroidered, cross-stitched actually, on clothing and different kinds of home, what's the term, cloths and things. So yeah, these are the motifs that are predominantly found in Romania. And I also have a little pin that is similar. And so if you don't know, my boyfriend is Romanian, so this is why I have the chance to know a little bit more about Romania's culture and visual heritage, so to say. So seeing these motifs and seeing how they were close and at the same time peculiar compared to Scandinavian knitting, I thought, well, that's too bad that I can't seem to find any knitted version of it. There probably is, but most of Romania's craft work is what that I was able to find was embroidery and weaving. My boyfriend's mother, she has a lot of woven rugs that she used to do when she was younger, back in the communist era. And yeah, knitting in Romania seemed to be, I've talked about this previously, it's really inexistent. So yeah, and which is why as well it's very interesting to hear about Moeke Yarns venture into making Romanian traditional wool a thing again. So I just thought that this was, although traditionally embroidered and drawn and woven and what have you, it just would work so well for a colorwork motif. So the first thing that I did is this hat. So this is the bold soprano hat, which is a free pattern that I have on Ravelry. So it's an iron weight hat that I knitted out of Lopi. As you can see, it's pretty much an exact transcription. I had to modify a little bit to accommodate gauge and make it somehow easier to knit. But yeah, this is what it is. This is the first of the Romanian-inspired pattern that I made. And yeah, it is called Bold Soprano because Bold Soprano is a play by Eugène Ionesco, which happens to be a Romanian-French playwright, one of my favorite playwrights, and I just thought that it was funny, appropriate, since I am a French person, getting inspired by Romanian visual traditions. I just thought it matched because Ionesco, being Romanian born, he went to live in France for a long time and wrote most of his works in French, and a lot of people actually don't know that he's Romanian. Also because, fun fact here, a lot of Romanian who went to France and had like famous careers or something had to alter their names. Well, they altered their names. Originally it's Ionescu. It's similar with the hotel in Nice, the Hotel Negresco. You might have heard of it. It's a really fancy hotel. Well, the real name of the Romanian person behind it was Negrescu. The problem is, in French, if you end a word with CU, it sounds like you're saying but. So that is why Eugène Ionescu is known as Eugène Ionesco, and why a lot of people actually don't know that he's Romanian. Same for Negresco, and there might be others, but yeah, just fun fact about why some people changed their names. But yeah, and furthermore, the Bold Soprano, which is one of his most famous plays, I just thought it was funny that a hat would be called the Bold Soprano, because you'd assume she'd need a hat. But yeah, there's literature nerds jokes, everyone. But yeah, this is the first example of this motif transcribed into knitting. Then I wanted to adapt it on socks, so I modified it slightly and made it, first I made it one color because I didn't want to deal with this has 3-stranded knitting because you're using 3 colors at a time on certain rows, and even though it's okay at a big gauge, it's manageable, you know. On socks, I thought, well, if I'm going to make socks, I don't necessarily want it to have on top of that the 3 colors color work. So I simplified the motif and made it 2 colors only. So you can see that I changed it quite consequently. I changed the stars to 4 branches instead of 8. It has 8, yes. But I kept the frame of them, and yeah, then what happens with coloring is that you usually fill in with little blips, so that's what happened here. And yeah, these are the bold soprano socks, which are as well a pattern of mine that is on Ravelry. And so from these to this to this. So again here I sort of took, you can really see the similarities in the colorwork of the socks and these. So you have the same shape star and the frame, it's just at a bigger scale, and then I had to fill it differently so that it would accommodate the transition from the cream to the brown, and so that you would have no floats to catch as well. So yeah, I just thought it would be fun to have a little history of design inspiration, so to say. So from something that is very close to the original inspiration, to alterations to accommodate sock knitting and then sweater knitting. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. That is often the case for my designs. I tend to modify things a lot, especially for colorwork, because a lot of times in colorwork it's like drawing, so you just keep modifying, twisting things, and often when I'm planning one colorwork design, I'm actually going to create 2 or 3 different things that I'm going to keep and might reuse later. So yeah, this was the little Romanian inspired collection history, so to say. And yeah, so later in date is this sweater. I think I've said everything that I wanted to say. So yes, Verhiga is now on Ravelry. I can't wait to hear what you think about it, and yeah, I hope you like it and that you find my little Romanian ramble somewhat interesting. But yes, I can now move on to some proper knitting and works in progress, actually. Well, I only have like 2 really big work in progress that I can share with you. The first one is my weekender sweater. Well, it's not mine, it's my mother's. I am knitting this for my mother's birthday, and I'm afraid it might be too big. So I'm knitting size M, which matched the measurements that she wanted perfectly. So I have done quite a significant amount of progress on it. So it's a bottom-up sweater. I have knitted the body and the front, so this is the front, and I am now continuing on the back. It's a little bit impossible to show at the stage that it is right now, but I'm going to try and lift it. Yeah, okay, so reverse stockinette, as you can see, with these lines of stitches in the center. And yes, so it is supposed to be rather boxy. It is also for my mother, which he is about a size up compared to myself. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna be okay, and it just looks weird now because it doesn't have the shoulders attached, and it is supposed to be quite drapey. But yeah, I don't want it to be too big. I don't know. So what I really want to do right now is finish the back, 3 needle bind off the shoulders so that my mom can try it on before making the sleeves, and I can see if it's okay or if it's horrible and there's no way to fix it. I don't know. My gauge is right, the measurements should be right, but I know a lot of people said that they found that it was too big on Ravelry, that they had to pick a size down. My mom really doesn't want something tight. It's quite, she has like a bigger bust than I do, and she would like something comfortable, but yeah, it doesn't need to be huge. And I don't know, I really need to have her try it on. So I need to do some work on the back and see how it goes. Maybe, you know, the sleeves are going to be a little bit more fitted, easier for me to fit. It doesn't look unreasonable. It's just, I'm not so sure how, if it's very, very boxy, I'm not so sure how the look is going to go on her. Well, we'll see what she thinks. So I did the front, and it's quite interesting how, so you have ribbing, you have shoulder shaping, so that it goes at an angle down the shoulders, and then some ribbing. And the front of the neck is bound off using Kitchener stitch, which I found interesting. But then you don't have an even number of stitches, so you can't Kitchener properly. So I kind of fudged it at the end, but I guess that's what you're supposed to do. And then you leave the shoulders to be 3 needle bind off at the end. I hope that the neckline is not going to be too strangly either. Well, that can be fixed with blocking, like I can make it so that it dips slightly. I'll see. Yeah. I'm eager to see it look like a sweater, to kind of be reassured, or on the contrary to cry over it. And yeah, because there's no way, if it's too big, that it can be fixed. I don't know. I am using Retrosaria Mungo, which is a cotton and wool recycled blend, in the color 3, which is a great heathered denim blue, and it looks really, really good. It looks great. It's like and it has some nice drape and things. I'm really eager to see how it is when it's washed, but it's nice, which would make me even more sad if the sweater size is all wrong. Yeah. I don't know, if it's so wrong, I might, well, I have to undo everything. I might not do the weekender actually, and just figure out something with easier shape. And it's not that it's not difficult, it's just that it has a lot of uncertainties regarding fit and the neckline, and so I might just do something simpler. But I really wish it would work, because I think it looks nice. I'm just afraid about the sizing and the neck. So yes, that is where I am with that. I hope to have the neck, the shoulders done like tonight or tomorrow, and yeah, hopefully I'll have good news about it. But yeah, the second work in progress I can show you is, I think I shared them with you last week. It's the socks I'm knitting for my boyfriend. So that I had, yes, I showed them to you because I had to undo them because they were too small. It's the sizing problem, apparently, in this episode. So I started over with a higher stitch count and bigger needles, and now they're nice and comfy. So these are the Little People socks, which is another pattern from me. And I'm knitting this out of Lakeside yarn in late summer colorway. I managed to find a reference. I knitted my boyfriend mittens, fingerless mittens, out of this yarn, and I had enough leftovers to make socks, so that's what I am doing for him for Christmas. And I used some yarn by Simon, a normal sock base, as contrast for the heel. I did a heel flap and gusset. I think I'm done with the gusset. I think so. Now I can just continue with the textured motif on the top of the sock and stockinette on the sole. So yeah, I really like this motif. I like the texture that it has, and then it makes a really comfy double layered warm sock on the inside. And yeah, as you can see, the yarn is pulling significantly. It is not something that bothers me. I really don't mind pulling, especially in socks. I think it kind of looks like and here you have this purling. I think it kind of looks like splashes of paint, you know. And I think it looks, fun. So yeah, I'm going to keep knitting on that once I finish the weekender. I kind of feel like going one by one and finishing things at the moment. I will talk about it more in a little bit. But yes, I may be able to show you, well, yeah, I've done some progress on a couple of the things, but I can't show them to you. Mostly I have worked on 2 secret designs. One is finished and is currently testing, and the second one is almost finished. Beep. It's almost finished. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of yarn, so I have to finish that and see if it works. If not, I'm going to have to undo things, and it's going to take longer. And yes, once this is done, then no more secret knitting for a while, and I will be able to have a little bit more knitting content to share, hopefully. But yeah, yes, this is all for this week's knitting content. Yeah, the thing is, I feel a little overwhelmed by my works in progress lately. I don't have that many of them. I have like 5 or 6, which to some might seem a lot, but to many will seem very little. And only one of them is rather languishing. By that I mean that I started it back in May. I haven't touched it in a long time because I had other priorities. But yeah, it's just that I see that I am knitting only on 2 things at a time, really, and that the rest is slipping. And that way I also feel that when I'm making the podcast, and especially when I'm making the notes, and I see all the lines of all the things that I'm sharing, it just feels a little bit too much. It just feels like I'm throwing a lot of things at you, and sometimes I like that, but I'm starting to feel, and maybe it's also due to the fact that Christmas season is coming and I have some gift knitting, and like a lot of the things that I'm working on right now are actually not for me, so it may be why I feel like this. But yeah, I feel like I would be happier if I could focus on less projects and that way finish them quicker. So I kind of want to try for next year, like for the end of the year, I want to go through what I have to do gift wise, but then I would like to start January with a somewhat clean slate. I don't know if it's going to be possible because I have that long whip that is my alpaca poncho that is almost halfway done actually, but it's going to take a while because it's cabley and it's huge. But I would like to start 2019 with 2 works in progress. Maybe 3 if really I can't do less. I think I'm going to put my limit at 3. And you might think, how am I going to handle that? Because being a designer as well. Being a designer. Designing it, yeah. I'm designing things. I don't feel I can say I'm a designer. It feels weird. Anyway, the thing is, yes, I tend to prefer to design one thing at a time just because it's easier for me. And then, yes, then I can have 1 or 2 personal projects to knit on, because for over a month now I put myself a rather strict schedule, strict in the sense that I haven't failed at it yet. I don't know if I mentioned it, I talked about it on Instagram, but I spent a rather stressful summer and end of summer, and I was all over the place and working on my designs, both knitting them and computer-wise, late at night and in the weekends and all the time, and I just realized I had very little downtime. So I just decided that I would work on my designs until 6 p.m. Then I would stop and I would do something else. And if I were knitting, I would knit something personal, not a design. And same on the weekend, like Saturday and Sunday, I am not working on my designs. I am still following the test knitting, obviously, and answering pattern support questions and things, but I am not knitting and not making heavy computer things. Like, I'm not writing pattern on the weekend and things like that. And this has been going really well for me. I feel much better following that, and I feel like I have proper rest time, and yeah, I have more times to do different things, to play video games, and yeah, to watch movies and things. The problem with that is that I still have some whips that I feel are piling up, like I said, and I are just sleeping. I'm not working on them. So I want to try for next year to limit myself to 2 work in progress at a time. Now, ideally, I would like it to be 1 design and 2 personal, just because I know I focus better on 1 design at a time. But if circumstances have me designing multiple things at a time because of deadlines and collaborations, I might switch that. As a consequence, it's not really monogamous. I said the word monogamous knitting, but it's not, because I'm talking about 3 works in progress. But since I have this separation between design and personal, and the goal is really 1 and 1, and if necessary 2 and 1, yeah, it still makes sense in my head to say monogamous, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. This might have some consequence on the podcast. It might mean that it's a little bit less pull. I mean, less chop 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 chop. You know, sometimes I just have so many things to talk about, and other times, like now, I just have big projects that are taking a lot of time, and so it feels like I have nothing to share, but I do have things to share. And I think that if I were more focused on fewer projects, I would be able to have sort of a fresher attitude regarding the podcast, and not that I don't have a fresh attitude. What I mean is that the podcast will have as well have some sort of a makeover and have a fresher mood to it if I'm not so much throwing you 10 different projects at a time in an hour. So yeah, these are just some thoughts I've been having. I am going to try to transition into doing that for the next year. So I am finishing my works in progress. I will not cast on something new until I finish what I have at the moment, because I don't have to. Yeah, I'm being careful design-wise with the deadlines that I take, so that they will fall nicely one after the other and not all together. But yeah, these are my thoughts, and I hope you will be okay with the podcast maybe being a little bit different next year if I happen to be a little bit more focused on one project. And the thing is, you know, I have a different series of video on the channel, which are the project focused videos, where I follow one particular project from start to finish. They're more like vloggy type videos, and I really like those videos. I really like filming them, and I enjoy focusing on one project. I'm not doing any at the moment. I know what I want to do. I just can't add it on top of all the whips that I'm already not working on. If I add another whip, it's just going to be too much, even though I want to make a small things, a pair of mittens, in fact. But yeah, I just wish I could do more of that, and so I think that if I'm limiting myself whip-wise and being more conscious of how I'm progressing with my projects, well, it will be easier to make more of those videos, which I really like, and I always have nice feedback on. So yeah, so 2019, 2 whips ideally, 3 if there's a project focus happening, or if I really have to design wise. But yes. I'm curious to hear what you think. How do you proceed? Do you knit on 10 different things at once, or will you are you more a person that likes to focus on one thing? Yeah, I don't quite know yet. I know it's like an evolving thing, so yeah, we'll see. But I do want to give that a try for the future. So yeah, these were just my little thoughts for this week's episode. I hope I was made sense, and yeah, I think that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Again, happy Thanksgiving if you're celebrating it, and if it is indeed this week, because you know, we have the Black Friday coming here as well in Europe. Well, the problem is Black Friday things has started happening like 2 weeks ago, so it's just a little bit confusing as to when things actually are. But yeah, happy something. But yeah, I wish you a very happy week. I will see you next time with a new episode. Hopefully some reassuring words regarding my weekender, and yes, thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely time.